Behind me is the warehouse of the Honduran Electoral Tribunal, and on the other side of these soldiers are boxes holding more ballots than any election in the history of Honduras. It was an election that featured brand new parties with brand new proposals, but at the end of the day, it was an election that failed the Honduran people.
Hemos encontrado innumerables pruebas de la asquerosa y monstruosidad con la cual están robando a nuestro pueblo hondureño la presidencia de la República.
It's been more than 4 years since a military coup in 2009 ripped this society apart. It was the first time in the history of the United Nations that every single one of its members voted to condemn a military coup. In response, those that carried out the coup here in Honduras held an election to try and clean their image, a process that could only be described as a farce and which put into power the National Party. The same 3 magistrates that oversaw the Electoral Tribunal of the 2009 election oversaw these elections. And the same military that still hasn't left the streets since overthrowing the president was in charge of moving the ballot boxes. This time around, the Electoral Tribunal has declared Juan Orlando Hernandez of the ruling National Party as the new president of Honduras with roughly 37% of the vote. Hernandez is the son of a landowning military colonel and president of the post-coup Congress. In one of the most violent countries in the world, he spoke to people's fears and proposed that only he and his military can save them.
Yo les pregunto a ustedes, ¿dónde quieren a los militares? ¿En las calles o en los cuarteles? Igual yo los quiero en las calles, pero los quiero en cada esquina.
As you see, the walls of the Electoral Tribunal here in Tegucigalpa still carry the graffiti of 2009 when the resistance to the coup boycotted the elections massively. In 2011, after 2 years of social struggle to try and revert the coup produced very few results, they decided to participate in the 2013 elections, forming a brand new political party, Libre. The central proposal of the Libre Party is to rewrite the country's constitution through a popular constitutional assembly. It's the same proposal that has unified the resistance to the coup for more than 4 years. Xiomara Castro, the wife of overthrown President Manuel Zelaya, won an internal election to become Libre's first ever presidential candidate. According to the Electoral Tribunal, Castro finished in second place with 29% of the vote, but the party has announced that they will not respect the results.
Desconocemos la legitimidad de cualquier gobierno que sea producto de este bochornoso asalto.
On election day, Hondurans went out in massive numbers to vote. But it was as soon as the polls closed that things went downhill. At the voting station I was at in the Bajo Aguan region, Libre received roughly twice as many votes as the National Party. But nobody came to pick up the results. And at the moment that Hernandez was declared the winner, the ballot boxes were still sitting in the school classroom, surrounded by soldiers. In the days following, the Libre Party has confirmed huge discrepancies between the tally sheets that arrived in the capital and those that were observed at the location of the voting. Libre called for an official recount, vote by vote, but the Electoral Tribunal denied the request.
Ellos tienen todo, el poder para avasallarnos, atacarnos y para perseguir a nuestra gente. Pero nunca lograrán rendirnos ni que perdamos nuestra dignidad. Volvemos pacíficamente a las calles de donde surgimos.
When the resistance to the coup decided to participate in the elections under the very terms dictated by those who carried out the coup, they had hoped that international observers would be able to ensure some level of transparency. Hundreds of observers representing solidarity groups did document an enormous list of violations. But the teams of the European Union, the Organization of American States, and the Carter Center all declared the elections a transparent success. Before getting on his plane, anthropologist and EU observer Leo Gabriel decided to speak out.
El error de la dirección de la misión es de dar 100% de confianza al Tribunal Supremo Electoral. Declaro que estas elecciones no fueron transparentes.
Just 2 hours later, Gabriel was officially reprimanded by the EU mission for breaking their code of conduct. As is often the case, the students were the first to take their frustration to the streets. When they took over the National University campus to demand a recount, they were brutally attacked by the police.
Hay dinero para comprar bombas lacrimógenas, no hay para pagarle al pueblo, no hay para pagarle a los maestros, no hay para la educación, para esto sí hay dinero, no es posible.
¡No tiene! ¿Cómo va a ser posible que Xiomara y el PAC y los otros partidos no tengan votos y a Juan Orlando sí los tengan? El acta dice algo y el conteo dice otra cosa. ¿Cómo no va a estar ganando si ellos no están robando el país? A muerte la jerarquía de la democracia, el poder del pueblo está en nosotros.
Despite all of this, leaders across the world are recognizing Juan Orlando Hernández as the president-elect of Honduras. So, where would Hernández take Honduras as president? In his last days as president of the Congress, Hernández led the creation of a new elite group called the Military Police.
Llegaron y rompieron todas las puertas de mi casa, se metieron a mi casa como delincuentes. Enfoque mi casa. ¿Qué mira de curioso en esa casa? Hay una bandera del Frente Nacional de Resistencia Popular, ¿verdad? Sí. Después del golpe de Estado, nosotros nos declaramos en completa oposición y siempre lo vamos a seguir declarando. Somos resistencia, ahí está la bandera en mi casa y por esa razón es que allanaron mi casa.
While originally deployed in just 3 communities, the cornerstone of the presidential campaign of Hernández was to employ the ski mask force across the country. The election of Hernández guarantees that the neoliberal economic model that has kept 80% of this country in poverty for the last 30 years will continue, with even more land concessions, and under the Charter Cities model, now entire jurisdictions will be handed over to corporations. On the other side of things, the Lenca people will continue to defend their rivers, the Afro-Indigenous Garifuna will continue to defend their beaches, and the farmers of the Iguan Valley will continue to take their land back. In short, the coup situation continues. In the news, a coup d'etat is often presented as something that happens on just one day. But in Honduras, people talk about a coup under construction, coup year 5, or even as an entire ideology, golpismo or coupism. For them, these elections have come to mean just one more setback in their fight for a more just and democratic society, wherein the same people that have been behind the coup from the beginning, whether here or abroad, have ensured that we don't even know which candidate got more votes last week. And as such, those that took power by force in 2009 will stay in power, and the coup against the self-determination of the Honduran people continues.